Hello, welcome back to channel Maths Magic. Today we are going to learn how to solve quadratic equation using factorization method. So we'll discuss the steps and then we'll see the examples. We can see the different examples which will be really helpful for solving a quadratic equation using factorization method. So first you have to keep few steps in mind while solving quadratic equation. So I'll explain you these steps one by one. So first step is you have to arrange the equation in one side. You have to arrange the equation in one side so that other side becomes 0. So you can say that you have to bring everything on, let's say, left hand side and then is equal to 0. So this is very important while solving quadratic equation using factorization method. Usually you will get the equation where it will be already arranged in one side. If you don't have your equation in such a way, so you have to bring everything on one side and keep on the right side is equal to 0. This was the first step. Now on second step you have to fully factorize equation. Usually you will have to keep this expression on left hand side, so you will fully factorize the equation. Now third step, you have to use null factor law to solve the equation. We have already discussed about null factor law. I'll give you the brief idea. If it's a times b is equal to 0, then a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. So we can use null factor law to find the answer after factorizing the equation. Now we can solve this. Basically, once you will use the null factor law, you can separate them and then you can solve in the next step. Solve the equation after using null factor law. And finally, you can check your answers for at least one solution whether it satisfies your equation or not. So basically you can check the answers. These are the few steps you have to keep in mind while solving a quadratic equation using factorization methods. Now we'll see what are the possibilities while solving quadratic equations using factorization method. So if you will solve the quadratic equation using factorization method, you have to keep few things in mind. So as I told you, you have to bring everything one side. After that you can take anything common out of the given expression. If there is any number which is common to the entire expression, you can take that out. It will be really easy for you to solve the equation. Now you have to realize that what types of factorization technique we can apply to the particular equation. So you may have your equation in the format like a square minus b square. if your equation is in this format, so you can directly do a plus b times a minus b, and then you can apply the null factor and solve it. So it is easy. This is called difference of the two square. Difference of the two square. Then we can have second situation also. If it's not the difference, then we can have splitting the x term. Splitting the x term. So how can we split the term? I'll just give you the brief idea. Let's say your expression is x square bx plus c is equal to 0. So you have to keep in mind that coefficient of x square should not be 0. It's kind of obvious if it's a quadratic. So what will you do? First step, you have to find the product of a into c. Now you have to divide. Okay, I'll make a numbering like this. I, then I. So you have to divide b in such a way that multiplication of those two terms should be same as a into c, but addition or subtraction should be same as b. So basically I'm changing this b in terms of p and q. So you can use either positive or negative, anything. So either p can be positive or q can also be positive, negative, anything is possible. So I'm showing negative and positive sign to the both term. So we have to divide b into such a way that it should be p and q, and it is possible to have p and q as positive number, negative number, both positive, both negative, one positive, one negative, anything is possible. So this is how we can solve using the splitting the middle term. Now how will you decide this? What should be the p and what should be the q? So basically once you will multiply a with c, you have to use the factor of that number. So I'll give you a example so it will be easy for you. Let's say the coefficient of x square is 2 and constant term c is 4. So 2 into 4 is 8. So you have to use the factor of 8 in such a way that multiplication should be 8 only, but the addition or subtraction should be same as the coefficient of x. Whatever x you have over here, it depends on the coefficient of x only. Accordingly you have to uh, split that. So hope it's clear now. So I can rewrite this equation. For example, we are having x square ax, okay, plus c is equal to 0, and then you have to split this. So how can you split? If I'm considering p and q, so you can directly split this as x plus p and times x plus q, and you remember what p and q are. So p plus q should be is equal to b, and sorry, we don't have b over here. P plus q should be is equal to a, and then p times q should be is equal to c. This is the second uh, technique which you can apply to the factorization method, right? Now third technique which you can use for the factorization method is perfect square. perfect square method. So I'll show you what perfect square method is, and then I'll give you the example of all these three methods so that it will be more clear to you. So perfect square method is the third technique used for factorization method for solving quadratic equation. So we are talking about perfect square technique. So in perfect square, if you can recall the formula a plus b whole square, which is a square, so I will write it properly. So a whole square plus 2 times a times b times, sorry, plus b square, or maybe a minus b whole square. So a square minus 2ab plus b square. So if your given expression on the left hand side follows this pattern, then you can directly write your equation in this format as a plus b whole square or a minus b whole square. For example, let's say you are having x square plus 4x plus 4. So you have to check whether we can apply a perfect square technique to this or not. So we can write this as x whole square. Don't write this before. First of all, write this one. So 4. So we can write this as 2 square. Now you remember this is a square, then 2ab. So if I'm considering this as a and this as b, then applying formula 2ab. So after multiplying all these three terms, it should be is equal to 4x. So let's check if it's working or not. So a is x and b is 2. So if you multiply 2x and 2, it becomes 4x. That means it's following the perfect square. Therefore, we can write this as x plus 2 whole square. Now how will you decide whether it is going to be plus 2 or minus 2? So simply you have to look at the coefficient of x. If the coefficient of x is positive, then you have to write positive over here. If coefficient of x is negative, then you have to write negative over here. So we have seen three different techniques to solve the quadratic equation using the factorization method. Now we can see the examples one by one. So let's start with the first example, and I hope you will understand this very easily. So I'm using very simple example. Let's say we are having an equation x square is equal to 5x, and we have to solve this. So you can recall the first rule which I told you, that you have to bring anything which is on the right side to the left side so that the right side becomes 0 only. So we can write this as x square minus 5x is equal to 0. Now the second step was to factorize this. So it's a very simple factorization. So you can directly take x common. So it will become x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now third step was to apply the null factor law. So according to the null factor law, first term is equal to 0 and second term is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0 remains x is equal to 0 only, and x minus 5 is equal to 0 becomes x is equal to 5. So this is the fourth step, solving this. So we got two answers, x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 5. Now we can verify our result whether it is satisfying the equation or not. So let's substitute x as 0, in the first equation, so it becomes 0 square, and you substitute on the right hand side also 5 into 0, so this is also 0 and this is also 0, so it's a satisfying. We can check with the second value, so it's a 5 square is equal to 5 times 5, this is 25, and this is also 25, so it's a satisfying. That means we got both the answer correct. It's satisfying the equation. Hope this technique is clear. Now we'll see one more example so that factorization technique will be more clear to you. So let's say we are having second example, x square 2x is equal to 8. So again we have something on right hand side, so according to the rule you have to bring everything on one side. One more thing which I forgot to mention earlier, that you have to write the equation in order. So what is the order? Order is x square bx plus c. So main order is you have to write the x square term first, then you write the x term, and then the last one c. If you have any term missing, so you can skip that, but obviously the first term will not be missed in the quadratic equation, it will be always there, but these two terms, any of these may be missing, either the first, the middle one, or the last one, but the first one will always be there, and you may have all three terms. So over here we have all three terms and we have to write this in order. So let's write it: x square plus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0. Now according to the rule you have to apply factorization technique to this. Now we have to check whether it will be solved using it will be factorized using the general method, or we have to follow any specific technique to this. So you can see that we cannot apply a direct method, so I think we can use splitting the middle term, right? So what I told you, you have to multiply this last term, which is basically constant term, with a coefficient of x square. So over here we don't have anything as a coefficient of x square, so basically we are having coefficient as 1. That means minus 8 is equal to 1 is minus 8 only. Now we have to break this 2 in such a way that multiplication should be minus 8, but addition or subtraction should be 2 only. So let's see what numbers we can use. So if you can remember, I told you we have to use the factor of minus 8. So what are the factors of minus 8 are the possible? So first factor is 1 and plus 1 and minus 1. If you divide, it will be completely divide. Then we have plus 2 minus 2, then we have plus 4 minus 4, and we can have plus 8 and minus 8. So we have to choose numbers from these factors only, which will help us to find the middle term. So I'll give the random guess. You can say we have 2 and 4, 2 and 4 multiplied to 8 only. Now we have to decide whether we need positive 2, positive 4, negative 2, negative 4, both positive, both negative, 1 positive, 1 negative. So let's try. As we need positive number as a addition or subtraction, so we will keep the bigger number as positive and a smaller number as negative. So we can keep 4 as positive and smaller is negative or positive, anything, but anyway bigger should be positive. Now we'll see if you will keep 2 as positive, so 4 into 2 is 8, but 4 plus 2 is 6, so this is not possible. But if you can keep minus 2, so 4 times 2 is minus 8 also, and 4 minus 2 is minus, sorry, 4 minus 2 is minus 2. That means it's satisfying, which we need. So we can write it like this: x square 4x minus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0. Now you can further factorize this, which will be really easy for you. So how can you further factorize? So you can take x common from this, it becomes x plus 4, and then you can take minus 2 common from this, so it becomes again x plus 4 is equal to 0, and again x plus 4 is common to both the terms, so x plus 4 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, before I proceed further, I want you to remember some short tricks to this. If you don't have any coefficient to this, that means if the coefficient of x square is 1, then you can directly use that thing which I wrote earlier, x plus p and x minus q thing, right? So according to this, we have x square with the coefficient 1, so let's write x over here and then plus over here and x over here and minus over here. So as I told you that we have to keep the plus as the bigger number, so we have two factors, 4 and 2, so 4 keep over here and 2 you can keep over here. So you can directly find this expression without doing these two steps, but you have to be very careful. I prefer to do all these steps for to avoid any mistakes. And now it's up to you which one you can prefer. Okay, now we will apply the null factor, so it becomes x plus 4 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So we got now solution part, so x becomes minus 4 or x becomes 2. So we got two solutions. Now what you have to do, you have to check this solution whether it's satisfying the equation or not. So I'm checking now only one equation, so let's keep minus 4, so it becomes minus 4 square plus 2 into minus 4 on the left side. So minus 4 is 16 and minus 8, so it's 8 only. Now right hand side is 8, so left hand and right hand is equal, therefore we can say that this solution is correct. Now we'll see one more example which will be very useful, so that this solution of quadratic by factorization will be very clear to you. So let's go to next example, and the next example says that if you have 2x square is equal to minus 1 plus 3x, so you have to solve this. So again you have to rearrange, so let's bring everything one side, 2x square, so I'll write the x term after that, so it becomes minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now you can see that the coefficient of x square is 2 and this is 1 over here, so again we have to multiply the coefficient of x square with the constant term, which is 2 into 1 is 2 only. Now we have to break negative 3 in such a way that multiplication should be 2 only and addition or subtraction should be minus 2. So as I told you, you have to use the factor of 2 only, so we have only two factors, basically four factors, plus minus 1 and plus minus 2, so we have to choose from these only. Now you have negative number over here, so you have to keep in mind that if you are having negative numbers, so first of all bigger numbers should be negative. So we are having only two factors, two numbers, which is factor over here, so we will use minus 2. Now a smaller number can be positive or negative both, but if you will keep positive 1, so it will be minus 1 only, so it will not satisfy, so we have to keep minus x, because minus 2 and minus 1 becomes minus 3. That means both negative is required over here, and then plus 1 is equal to 0, and you know that after this you have to take common, so over here we have 2x common and then x minus 1, and from these last two terms we are having minus 1 common, so it becomes again x minus 1. Now further we are having x minus common to this, so x minus common, and then 2x minus common is equal to 0. Now you can apply null factor, so it becomes x minus 1 is equal to 0 and 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. So you got x is equal to 1 and x is equal to half. Two answers. Now you can check whether it is satisfying the equation or not. If the answer is not satisfying the equation, that means there is something wrong. You have to redo or recheck your working. Now we have discussed different techniques to solve the quadratic equation so far, and we have seen the examples also. I'll give you one last example and then we will sum up the session. So this is a bit different example. Over here we are having equation as a fraction, so you don't need to panic with this. It's not so difficult. So first of all you have to rearrange this. So how will you rearrange? So first of all cross multiply this, right? If you cross multiply, this becomes x times 6 plus x and 2 times x minus 2. So I'll write the x square term first. So x times x becomes x square, then x times 6 becomes 6x, and then on other side it becomes 2x and minus 4, and we have to bring everything one side according to the rule. So x square 6x minus 2x plus 4 is equal to 0. Now 6x minus 2x becomes 4x, so x square plus 4x plus 4 is equal to 0. Now we have to check whether we can apply any direct method. If you can see that last two terms are square terms, so first is x whole square and the last one is 2 whole square. So we have to check if we can write this as a square 2ab plus b square, if it will work or not. If it will work, then it will be easy for us. So I am writing 2, so you know the formula says 2ab, so I am taking x as a and 2 as b. So 2 from the formula, a is x and b is 2. So if you multiply 2x and 2, so it becomes 4x only. That means it's a satisfying, it's a perfect square. Therefore you know a square 2ab and b square becomes a plus b whole square. Therefore our a is x and b is 2, so we can write this as x plus 2 whole square is equal to 0. Okay, now from here we can solve this in two different way. So I'll show you both the technique. First of all, we can write x plus 2 whole square is equal to 0, and you know that if you will shift this square on other side, it becomes square root. So square root of 0, you know x square root of 0 is 0 only. That means x plus 2 is equal to 0, which is x is equal to minus 2. Now second technique, you know that a square means writing the same thing twice in multiplication. So we can write x plus 2 times x plus 2 is equal to 0, and both are same thing. Therefore we can apply the null factor to this. X plus 2 is equal to 0, so x is equal to minus 2. Second one will also give you the same answer. Therefore we don't need to repeat that. Hope it's clear. So I'll just sum up the session. We have learned different techniques of factorizing the quadratic equation. One was the basic factorization, second was the perfect square factorization, then the difference of a square factorization, and middle term split. So we have seen all different examples. Hope it's clear now and it will be very helpful for you. If you still have any doubts, you can ask me. I'll surely get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.